Hey, welcome back to the number one podcast in the world, Cellarcast, episode 90. Oh no, which one is this? Oh, I didn't have it up. Hang on, no. Oh, now I have to go to... See, what the problem is my power went out, so I didn't pull up the screen. 92, episode 92. Yeah, my power went out earlier today, so I got logged out all my stuff. And I did not, when I hit record, I realized I forgot to bring the page of the channel page back up. Anyway, 92. Yeah, so there was no episode last week. I'm gonna do 2 episodes again because I like to keep 1 episode per week. So I am like in debt 1 episode. It's fine. I'll find something to talk about. Excuse me. You know what? Maybe the second one will be like a little mini episode, and it'll be like, I think maybe I'll just dedicate it to talking about the video, the most recent video, because I think there was an interesting story behind that. So maybe later this week or something. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So that was my week. Pretty uneventful. I was basically just working on the video all month, and then I finished it just in time for Friday morning, because I had to go to an event with Kat. I should got reminded of something. That we want to talk about later. I went to an event with Kat. It was like, and her mom. It was it was a local like toy / collectibles fair, which is not probably not something I would go to of my own accord. But hey, she went to Slashback for me. The least I can do is go to this with her. And hey, who knows? Maybe I'll even find something that I'll like. I didn't. I found things that, well, tangentially I liked. I didn't buy anything, but there were a few cool things. I found there was this dude who had a functioning and like complete Atari 400. I was like, that's sick. He didn't have any tapes for it, and that's the difficult thing is that, like, man, if it was like $200, which was actually pretty good for something of that, like everything being complete and in working order, that's a pretty decent price. But the thing is, like, yeah, that's out of my price range, and even if I could buy it, like, Atari 400 ran on like tapes, man, like those. There can't be many of those still around. Like, those things rot. It's from like the early 80s, man. How many VHS tapes of movies are even in good condition from that are that old? Yeah, so like now imagine Atari 400 games. Like, yeah, how many of those are you even going to be able to find for decent prices? And at the end of the day, hey, Atari 400, it's neat. It's cool. I don't know if I'm comfortable dropping, let's see if we can actually find any Atari 400 tapes. How much do these things go for? Just randomly listed. I'm seeing $22 used for a set of 3 snooker, pool, and darts. Ooh. A lot of 4 games for $100. Snookers, pool, darts, and home financial management. Oh, I'm just chomping at the bit. Space games for $35. Like, sorry, no, I'm not gonna. I'll emulate it. I'm not gonna buy that. I am not so in love with physical media that I will do that. But it was cool. It was really cool to see one of those things in person. It was pretty sick. And the dude was pretty cool. Just telling me all about it, and we talked a little bit about old computers and things like that. I was also at one point, because, I'm not really into... I am well past the phase of, oh, that's the thing that I like. I'm going to buy it because it's merchandise of the thing that I like. I used to be like that. And now I have too much stuff, and I've kind of cooled down in my consumerism. So if I see something that's related to a thing I like, it has to be good. It has to be really cool for me to actually want it. Or it has to be very, like, I'm not just going to buy... You can't just, like, take a thing that I like, for instance, and, like, just slap the logo on a t-shirt. Like, I do like to own shirts, for instance, that are, like, cool artwork. Like, I own a couple different Berserk shirts that's cool, like, artwork from the manga. I think that's neat. I like owning stuff like that because it's also, like a discussion piece. I love, like, in the last video, am I still wearing it? I'm still wearing it because I'm a fucking slob and I change my shirt once every 2 weeks. I was wearing my Proto Men shirt, my Proto Men Act 1 shirt, and it's a super cool... It's a cool logo. Like, okay, it's a band logo, but it's cool. Like, it's a cool looking logo, like the way that you... it's in this... how would I even describe... It's kind of emulating like an LED display, just like black and white, but it's this effect where, like, the further away you are, the easier it is to read, because the dots kind of... they smush together a bit when you're further away. Like, that's a cool shirt. That's kind of like... It's a thing that I like, but I could also start a conversation about it. It's not just like, here's the Hunter x Hunter logo, and we're gonna put it on a T-shirt, and you're gonna buy it. For some people, that's enough. For me, I have enough. You gotta earn my dollar like that. So Kat will still just buy whatever fucking little plastic thing that is of a thing that she likes at the moment. She saw, like, a McDonald's toy of the Reptar wagon from the Rugrats movie, and she's like, I have to have it. Oh my god, she's so cute. She saw a stand. There was this one booth. This lady was just selling this gigantic Wallace and Gromit collection. And dude, Kat, she was holding my hand when she saw it, and she nearly ripped it off running over to this thing. Jesus, like she sped over, and she bought like a Wallace plush from this lady. And her mom and I are on like the same page, because her mom was there and she was looking for some very specific... She was looking for a specific thing from this like 70s or 80s like mecha anime called Voltes V. I think it was popular in the Philippines. And she's been looking for it. Just like merchandise for it, and she found some there. But she doesn't get Kat's plush obsession. So like Kat just she's carrying like 3 Garfields and a Wallace, and her mom goes, "Did you buy that?" And she goes, "Yeah." They were selling a bunch of Wallace and Gromit stuff. And her mom just gives her this look like, okay. Because she knows it's going to end up in their fucking living room. Because Kat doesn't have her own room. She just sleeps out in the living room like a little animal. And the whole couch is just covered in plushes. So there's only like a couple things that, because people will go here to places like this and they'll have objectives, right? They'll be looking for something. The only things that I look for is there's a couple like anime figures that I still really want, that I would think would be really cool to own. I wasn't expecting to see any of them here. There's also like there's 2 Toho figures. There's like this one of like an Idolmaster character that I think is really cool. That's it pretty much. There's also the other collectible thing is there was I won't get into the whole backstory of what it is, but there's essentially a 40K art book. Well, not 40K specifically, the Horus Heresy, that was taken from this old like card game from the 90s based on the Horus Heresy era of 40K. And there's a lot of really cool artwork that was in that card game, and they collected it into like 4 books, these 4 giant books, and then they collected all those books in like one gianter book called, I think, Collected Visions, or Visions of Heresy, or something like that. There's this big black tome with tons and tons of artwork and little lore bits scattered about, like pertaining to what to the artwork on the page. Really cool. I love art books. I'm a sucker for art books. I'd love to own that. Unfortunately, it goes for like $600 because it's been way out of print, and it's very valuable. So like that's the one thing that I'm like, okay, that's like the pie in the sky, long shot goal, I guess. Like if I saw that, depending on the price, it might be sight unseen. It might be on site. And other than that, it was like, there was actually no. At one point, we found this one area, this one like booth, I guess. Most of them weren't even booths. It was just they set up a table. It was in like a convention center. This wasn't like outside, but sort of similar to like a flea market kind of thing, like an indoor flea market basically. And this one booth, these guys had a box full of old gaming magazines. And I was just looking through it, and I was like, you know what? It might actually be really fun to have a copy of Die Hard Game Fan, or Gamer's Republic, or Play, one of those, or the second Die Hard Game Fan. That's something that, like, just for the novelty, because I am technically one of the world's foremost experts on Die Hard Game Fan history. I can proudly say that, and but I don't own any physically. I only ever read them online, because I'm not freaking buying. I wasn't gonna buy one for research. It would be really neat to own one and just have it as like, hey, yeah, it's like a throwback to this big project I had. Didn't find anything, unfortunately, but man, I was on my feet the entire day. Just the whole day. And I'm not going to lie. There's a combination of things happening. Number one, I'm on my feet and I'm moving all the whole day, because we're just walking around, because she's looking for more garbage. And the second thing is that I'm not terribly interested in what's around me. And that is an issue, because it's not just being bored. I wasn't even that bored, right? I could have been much more bored. It's that when I'm around a lot of people, I get put into... This is like an introvert thing, I think. I'm sure a lot of you could relate to this. My energy level goes down. I start dropping into like the depressive end of the mood spectrum. Not to say I'm depressed. I'm just low. Excuse me, low energy. And in the wrong setting where I don't want to be there, that can be really bad. That can be really bad for me. In a good setting where I'm at least, invested in what's happening around me, I think it actually be very enjoyable, like a very calm, pleasant experience. This was kind of like, there were a few points where my skull felt kind of numb. But I kind of got, shaken awake just by every now and again. I'd see something interesting. So that was, we were there for like, 3-4 hours. I had this like thing that I kept experiencing, this reaction. And this is why, you know, when you go to these things, there's going to be some stuff that I will admit I think is pretty cool. Or I can at least see the novel, like, oh, this is like a cool thing. I see value in this, personally. And there's other times where I feel like a lot of it is just like plastic tat. And that's the best way I can describe it. Just like this reaction, this cycle I kept having. I would see like a box, or like it's not really a box. It's like a packaging for a toy, and the artwork looks cool. The art looks cool, like it's a cool looking alien or something. And I love my cheesy pulpy like 50s sci-fi cover looking aliens. I love that. Love that stuff. And then you look at the toy itself, and it's this like dinky, it's the shittiest looking little plastic action figure you've ever seen. And I'm like, the artwork is significantly more interesting than the toy, which I guess is the point. But like, man, how disappointing. It's like, oh, the Karate Kid. Look at this artwork of the Karate Kid. And you look at it, it's just a shitty, dinky little action figure. And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand. I guess it's nostalgia. It just, I don't know, man. I don't like raining on people's parade. But there's a point where I'm like, man, like, just some standards. Just some, like, a level of craftsmanship or quality, at least, for the things you like, and not just, like, churned out, what am I saying? Just, like, churned out marketing machine, like, garbage? Like, that's what a lot of it just seemed like to me. Or just, what, it was like, the Love Boat Jigsaw Puzzle. Really? Okay. Sure. Yeah, and that's not to say all of it was like, there was a huge variety of stuff there. Just so happened that most of it did not interest me. There was one 40K related thing. And I saw the logo. I was like, oh, actually, because, I mean, it's really, I'm sure if we went to one of these things in, like, the UK, there'd probably be something. Yeah, there might be. But here in America, it's not. It's a lot of people just digging stuff out of their collections. You're not going to get a lot of 40K stuff out of there. But there was one thing, and I was like, oh, I walked over to it, and it's a figure. It's not like a miniature, but it's like a figure of a space wolf. And I was like, God damn it. It had to be space wolves? Ugh. Get that out of my face. There's like one that was a space wolf, and there was one that was an orc. And I like the orcs, but I don't like them enough to drop like $80 on a figure of one. Yeah. So then after that, I mean, we had a full day. Her mom's really, I think her mom likes me now. She's investing in me. She actually paid for my ticket, which was really nice. Really nice of her. I think I've earned the trust of the Filipino mother. I made it over. I made it over the line. No, but she's nice. She's definitely I think she's gotten a lot more, I don't know, comfortable with me dating her daughter. So she took us out to lunch, and then we went to IKEA, because we went IKEA shopping, and yes, Kat got a blahaj. She got the blahaj, the shark. I realize that if you're not familiar with the meme, you might have no idea what I'm talking about. You know how IKEA sells like plush toys of different animals and stuff? Like usually near the end. Apparently for some reason, the shark plush, which is called the blahaj, I guess that's what shark is in Swedish. The blahaj is really popular with like trans people. I don't know why, but like I assumed she owned one because she loves plushes, right? But no. And she didn't, and she was really excited that we were going to IKEA because she could finally pick one up. She didn't have an excuse to go to IKEA otherwise. And they sell two. She immediately picked the gigantic one, which was like $30, and she was like, "Ugh." And then they sell a smaller one for like $8, but her mom saw it, and we told her about, and she loved it. And we told her that there was a bigger one for $30, and she went to check it out. And like we were sitting, it was right next to like the food court area, and we just watch her like. She's like within eyesight, like it's like maybe 10 feet away, and she steps out with like the giant shark, and we see her So she bought it for her with the condition that they would get to trade who gets to sleep with it. So Kat got her blahaj, or like blahoj. I don't know how it's like an A with the circle over it. It might be an O. I'm not sure. Yeah. So big win for her. And then I after that, they drove me home, and I was exhausted. I was complete. That was a long day. That took me out. But fun. And I got to see my beloved very happy to pick up things that she liked. Someone was selling a plush of it was Mario, specifically Mario from the Mario versus Donkey Kong. The one, I think it was on like DS, and it was like kind of like a puzzle game with the little wind-up toy Marios. Excuse me. There was a plush of one of the little wind-up toy Marios. So she bought that, and then these people like 20 minutes later approach us. They're like, "Oh my god, we've been trying to find you. Can my boyfriend buy that off of you?" And Kat, because she's a pushover, let them buy it off of her for like $20. And then she was like, I was like, "Do you regret it?" She's like halfway. And then like by the end of the day, she's like, I shouldn't have sold it to them. I'm like, you gotta stand up for yourself, baby. Gotta assert yourself. I let her up to it. You know, I let her do it. I don't want to be the one to step in and say, no, don't sell it to them. You know, that's her. She's got to make that decision for herself. Anyway, speaking of, so I spent the night over at Kat's house the night before, and we've kind of been on a roll of watching. She wants to watch every Nickelodeon movie. We're not doing it in order, but she wants to watch all of them. So the next one we had up was Barnyard. I guess there's not a whole lot to say about Barnyard. It was like a 2006 animated movie. I think they were trying to go for the same thing as like Jimmy Neutron. That kind of like, oh, we make a movie. We make like a movie that looks kind of like shit, and then we make a TV series that actually looks pretty good for a CG TV series. So Barnyard, I knew it more for the television show, for the one that ran on Nickelodeon, because that was on all the time when I was a kid. I think I watched a lot more of it, and honestly, I think the show is probably a lot better than the movie. Not to say the movie's bad per se, it's just, I'm like, man, I really feel like this works way better as like a TV series than a movie, which is kind of odd, but yeah, it's American Shaun the Sheep. There's animals on a farm, and when the human's not looking, they can walk on two legs and talk to each other, and they get up to wacky hijinks. That's the premise of Barnyard, and Back to the Barnyard, or Back to the or Back at the Barnyard, something like that. It's one of those two. The movie is fine. It's perfectly fine. The story feels a little like, I mean, it's trying. It's decent. I see what they're going for. It's like, oh, the child has to inherit the responsibilities of the parent before they're ready, and they have to stand up and have a growing up moment and become a leader. But he's still kind of a goofball a little bit. Like, okay, yeah, it's perfectly serviceable. What I found interesting was the look of the movie. It has this really, really low, I don't want to say low budget, but there was so many things I was comparing it to. But ultimately, the reference that landed the hardest with Kat was when I said, this looks like a game from like this. What was it? This looks like the intro cutscene to something you download from Big Fish Games. Now, if you understand that reference, that might have... When I said that, I was not expecting it to hit her as hard as it did, but like she was in shambles. And it was that kind of laugh that was like, I pulled a deep repressed memory. I dislodged it from her brain. I shook it loose. For those of you who don't know, so because I was like, I realized how hard she laughed at it, and I was like, I feel like this is a reference that kind of reference. If you're even like a year or two younger than we are, which is 21, you would not understand that. If you got that reference, let me know in the comments, because it probably hit you pretty strongly as well. So Kat and I were both 21, so we're Zoomers, but we're on the slightly older end of Zoomers. I would say you could maybe divide Zoomers into like two different sorts of sides to further the distinction, right? To draw an even more lines in the sand. One of them on the you go to a few years younger, and it's a cool math games generation. You go a few years older, and it's like OG addicting games generation. Wave of the generation. Or Big Fish Games. If you don't know what Big Fish Games is, because I looked up, it does still exist. I actually might do a video on it next. Big Fish Games is what I like to call cyber kitsch. It's kind of like the video game equivalent of how would I describe of daytime television. It's very easy watching. It's not very deep. It's not super substantial, and it's largely marketed towards middle-aged women who have a lot of free time on their hands. That is what Big Fish Games is. They were a pioneer in being a web-based distributor of casual video games. So they had you're not downloading, you're not downloading the latest hotness. You're not downloading Doom 2016. You're not downloading Titanfall off of Big Fish Games. You're getting like hidden object games. There's 1 trillion hidden object games on there. You're getting like a puzzle game. You're getting this very simple stuff with like approachable Candy Crush art style. It's cyber kitsch. That's how I would describe it. And when I was a kid, this was like, excuse me. So every single one of their games, you can buy them over the internet, and then they'll just let you download it. But for pretty much every single one of them, they also offer a 1-hour free trial demo. And I played so many of these as a kid who did not have a lot of money to spend. actually, I had no money to spend, and I really didn't want to ask my parents for money because we were not the wealthiest family growing up. Big Fish Games ended up being a lot of stuff that I played. And I can't remember a lot of it, to be honest, but I do remember a couple. A lot of like civilization builder games, things like that. I was never into the hidden object things. So I would download these games for the 1 hour trial, and I would start them up, and I would try to play them as fast as possible to see as much of the game as I could. And then I would move on to the next one, and I would spend like a day doing that. What did they... I looked them up afterwards. And I want to say that, like, they're still active. They still exist. bigfishgames.com/us/en/pcgames.html. And they're still churning out stuff. There's a game called So Much Stuff. Man, they couldn't be any more correct. Like, you know what? Think about like when you go on Steam and you look at like, or any other, games retail platform, and you look at any, the tags or the categories that they offer games in. Here's what Big Fish offers. Browse by genre. Hidden object. Time management. Match 3. Casino. Adventure. Puzzle, family, arcade and action, card and board, strategy, mahjong, just mahjong. That's the whole category. Brain teaser, marble popper, which is what is it called? Zumba? Which one with the frog that spits out the marbles and you gotta match the marbles? They have an entire section for that, and word games. That's what they offer. This is what they offer. And I love reading. Okay, let's look at the reviews for Escape the Lost Kingdom, a hidden object game. Very entertaining and interesting game. A family goes to Egypt and break apart because of a curse. You will help bring them together. Let's see. What is really pleasant game, provides great fun. This game was riveting from beginning to end, and even if you're not a lover of antiquities and Egyptology, you'll love this game regardless. Great graphics and music, good voiceovers, and excellent storyline all decorate this exciting game. I loved it. Great family fun, a nice game with no demonic elements. Nor fireworks. Just follow different characters. Yeah, this is... Ancient Egypt is always worth revisiting, and this is a nice excursion with no macabre themes. I love... You can tell these were all written by moms. You could tell that these were all written by moms who are they're gaming moms, and I love that. I'm really happy for them. It's just really I want to do a video on it. I've been looking into like, is there anything really interesting I could pull together here, and I might find it. I haven't done a ton of work just yet, but I was inspired to because of our discussion of Barnyard. Oh, also, so one of the reasons she wanted to watch Barnyard was because there is a theory, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, that Otis, the main character, is a trans cow, because he is a he, right? But he's a cow, but cows are not, you wouldn't expect a cow to be wouldn't he be a bull, except he has udders and no horns. So like, what? So and there's a scene where he's sitting with his dad, like under the stars, and his dad says like, I remember I used to sit out here with your sister. And Otis goes, I don't have a sister. And his dad says, oh yeah, I forgot, that was you. And I'm like, that's because the character isn't, the dad character doesn't seem like he's like an airhead. Like that's not really, it's a little out of character. Or maybe it was like he was trying to tell a joke. But like, what was the intention of that line? Was that, hang on, because I'm like, oh wait, no, the that doesn't make sense, because like, well, maybe not so, because Otis's dad also has udders. Wait, I'm like, wait, Otis was adopted. No way. Is there credence to the theory? Perhaps. It is pretty funny anyway. So she's pegged Barnyard as being the trans cow movie, the Romola movie. Yeah. So I genuinely feel like the premise works better as like a television series and not a movie. Because I'm watching the movie, I'm like, I kind of wish there's like a fun section where they go. There's like the little shitty redhead kid, and he and his friends go cow tipping at night, and then Otis and the other cows, they go. Oh, that's the thing. Yeah, there are bulls in this. There are bulls with like horns, like visibly, they're bulls. But then a lot of the male cows have udders, huh? What's up with that? And so like they Otis and the other cows, as revenge for cow tipping, they like hijack this couple's car and drive it all the way to this kid's like house, and they fucking break into his house and like push him over off of his bed, and they go, that's called boy tipping. And the kid has like a fucking mental breakdown, and it's genuinely kind of funny. I'm like, I kind of wish the whole movie was just stuff like that. It was just dumb fun stuff. But they're like trying to tell this big narrative. I'm like, yeah, it's fine, but I kind of wish there was just more fun, simple stuff. And that's basically what the television series is, because I remember the TV show being pretty solid. There was a thing a few years back of like circulating clips from it, and I was like, yeah, this was actually a pretty decent show. Had some fine writing to it. Also, very strangely, one episode of the TV series has a song, like there's a song that's played in the background, by written and performed by Isaac Brock, the lead singer, guitarist, songwriter, vocalist of Modest Mouse. Modest Mouse is one of, if not my favorite bands of all time. So I've listened to just about everything Isaac Brock has ever written. Like everything. I'm like a Modest Mouse super fan, and like I was listening, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, no, it's totally him. Like his voice, the banjo, it's definitely him, and I've never heard it. It just sounds like, this is like people make those iceberg memes. This is like the bottom of an iceberg meme. The Modest Mouse iceberg. I'd never heard it before, and it sounds incomplete. It sounds like, I looked up the date of the episode, and it's like from 2008 or something, about 2008. And so you imagine it was in production, starting in like 2007. And I was like, huh. Well, the year after that, in 2009, they put out this EP called No One's First and You're Next. And if you go listen to that EP and you listen to that song, you're like, I can hear, this is coming off of Good News for People Who Love Bad News. I'm like, I can hear. No, this is coming off of We Were Dead Before the Ship Even Sank, 2007. I'm like, this feels kind of like almost like a B-side or like a musical sketch that he didn't have any use for. Because it's super modest. I think the only line, it's just this like kind of sinister sounding banjo line, like banjo melody, and then just Isaac Brock said like, "I'm a dog, I'm a dog." Like, yeah, it sounds like something they'd put out. I have no idea why what connection he would have, because he actually did the theme song for The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. It's like, yeah, no, that's totally him. That's absolutely him. So he'd done some work for cartoons before, but that was a Cartoon Network thing. I don't know if there was like a staff crossover or just a random connection. I don't think he's ever been asked about it in an interview. Just this very strange, tenuous connection, or not even tenuous, but just very strange connection between Back at the Barnyard and one of my favorite bands of all time. How quaint, you know? I think that's just about everything I have to say about Barnyard. The white trash husband character is great. He only has like 3 lines, but he's hilarious. There's like some genuinely funny, like, I like when there's like a line, like the wife swears she could see, it's the scene where the cows steal her car. They're sitting in like the living room and she swears she can see them walking past on like their hind legs. And she has this thing where she's still like, no, I'm not. But it's something like, I'm not crazy. I have a chemical imbalance that I take pills for. It's a funny line to have in a Nickelodeon production. Anyway, that's Barnyard. It's fine. I would probably recommend the TV show, which just looks better for what it is. Like, you see it, the movie, you're like, man, this does not look that great. And then you see it as a TV show, you're like, for a TV show, this looks pretty good. That's the double-edged sword. It's all about expectations, baby. Couple quick news stories. Number 1, it's over, boys. Nightdive has been purchased by Atari. That's right. That's right, guys. It's over. So, Atari, this is coming from Yahoo Finance. Atari enters into an agreement to acquire Nightdive Studios and announces its intention to proceed with the issuance of 30 million euros. 30 million euro bonds convertible into new Atari shares. Wait, am I reading that right? Or is it 30 euro M bonds? Who knows? I don't know how to read that. Is it 30 million of bonds? I don't. Anyway, okay, so Atari, the company, as they define it here in this article, one of the world's most iconic consumer brands and interactive entertainment producers, announced that it has entered into an agreement to acquire 100% of Nightdive Studios, Inc. In addition, Atari SA also announced it intends to proceed in the near term with a 30 million euro bond issue convertible into shares of the... Okay, so that's actually a separate thing. Yeah, so I read this and legitimately, like, my insides turned to stone. My stomach dropped. I was cold. I got the chills. The only thing I could think was, please just get the System Shock remake out. Just get it out. That's all. Just get the game out at this point, and then we can wipe our hands of it, of everything here. You know. I can't let Atari destroy two things that I love. They already fucked up Blood and killed it. I can't let them fuck over System Shock now. I can't let them do it at the 11th hour. I don't think they will. I don't think they can, unless they force it out the door before all the bug fixes are done. So the System Shock remake got delayed mainly, from what I understood, and from because there is a fully playable beta that is only available to backers. And they're under NDA, so they can't say anything. But basically, what I got was the beta is really buggy, and it's not ready for release. So this is a bug-fixing delay. This is not, oh shit, the game is only half finished kind of delay. The game is done. It just needs a lot of fixing right now. So I am waiting with bated breath for this, like, this atrophied, skeletal, just skin and bones horse to cross the finish line. Just like, please, just cross the line and we can leave the race for good. I'm assuming that this has something to do with the pre-existing relationship they had from when Nightdive did Blood Fresh Supply, which Atari also fucked them over on because they didn't let them develop. They didn't give them more money to develop it out or improve upon that. Excuse me, that version of the engine. For quickies, the Blood, there's no true source ports of Blood because the source code has been lost. So every single source port, quote unquote, you'll see, like GX Blood, is that what it's called? Or N Blood. Those are all, or the one in Blood Fresh Supply, the official re-release, those are all approximations of how the original game works. For my money, my favorite's N Blood. That's what I would recommend playing it with, but Fresh Supply is fine. It's not perfect, and there's some things about it that are kind of whack and weird. Specifically, like the way the view like warps whenever you look too high or too low. I don't like that. It's like a weird FOV thing. But like it's a fine port. It's also compatible with Death Wish, so I would recommend getting it just for that, so you can play Death Wish easily. But yeah, they wanted to do more work on it post-release to just improve it and improve the faithfulness and all that, and fix bugs and things, that sort of thing. Atari just didn't give them the funds. They just cut it short. Grumble. Because you can tell the people at Nightdive really care, generally. Like they care about the things that they're making. Now that they're owned by Atari, I hope beyond hope that Atari is going to let them keep that original release date for May 30th. And they're actually going to be able to have enough, they're going to have enough time to actually iron out as many bugs as possible, so that, hey, maybe Atari's going to just pull the plug on development as soon as the game is out the door. There's going to be no further patches to fix anything. Just, like, get it as good as possible and get it the frick out the door. Please. Please. We've been waiting so long for this. I played the demo. The demo was good. Just this last-minute twist that I really didn't need. Yeah, okay. Well, that's that story. Atari is and always has been a terribly run company. Hopefully Nightdive does not get sent into, like, the slot machine ghetto or whatever. Yeah. Okay, what else? Hey. Big SNK trailer. The biggest news of which was that KoF XIII is getting rollback. I woke up on like Saturday morning. Me and Kat both woke up at the same time. And we were just kind of waiting because we weren't going to leave for a little bit. and I was just looking at my phone, and I'm like, oh, SNK, a bunch of SNK trailers. What is this? So I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, yeah, a lot of it was just stuff that we knew about. And then KoF 13 rollback. I'm like, no fucking way. Because it was like April 1st. It was Saturday, April 1st? It was. It was literally April 1st. And I'm like, and I know, okay, so Japanese April Fools is not April 1st. They have an equivalent. They have their own version of it, but it's not April 1st. So I'm like, any news that comes out of a Japanese company on the 1st of April is not a joke. Unless it's, I guess, maybe the like Western, like a Western PR or like Western side of the company or something like that. Like they might do that. But SNK is not gonna do now. They're not gonna drop a fake trailer for KoF 13 rollback on April Fool's Day. And I was like, God damn, no! It's actually happened. The dream is actually real. That's the one. It's the holy trinity of KoF games that people care about enough to want to go back and play. It was 98, 2002 and KoF 13. And for the longest time, 13 was the only one that did not have rollback, and it was just kind of a big bummer for people. So for SNK heads, you guys won. You guys took home the gold today. Except fucking psych, it's only rollback on Switch and PS4. What? Huh? No Steam release? Why would you do that then? Why would you ever do that? Who is playing KoF 13 on their Switch? I'm sure some people will. There's some portion of it's fine. It's like, I'm not saying they shouldn't do that. That's actually cool that you can get it on Switch. It probably won't have crossplay, but hey, you know, what the hell. But like, to not have a Steam release, that's where most fighting games, PC is like a huge market for fighting games now. Maybe I should have expected it out of SNK, because the PC port of 15 was so fucked up from launch. And I'm not even talking about like netcode or lobbies, I'm just talking about like the functionality. I had a big long rant about how for some godforsaken reason they decided to hard code one of the menu buttons to the space bar. You could remap something. So like, you know, when I was still playing with keyboard, this is before I got my leverless. When I was still playing on a keyboard, I would of course map. I use a hitbox layout for keyboard. So I would of course map up to the space bar. Well, doing that was impossible because it would open up like the team edit menu every single time on the main menu. If you were in a lobby, which was the only way I could find games because the matchmaking was fucked. The only way I could find games was to go to like player lobbies and just search and find somebody like that. For some godforsaken reason, hitting spacebar was hard-coded to open the room list of who was in the room. Why? I don't know. Why would you ever do that? Like, you have to be so out of touch. Like, literally not a single... The only way a decision like that happens, or it gets through, is that not a single person in the office is experienced with playing fighting games on a keyboard. Like to even if you don't play with that hitbox style layout where you hit, you know, you're hitting up with your thumb, you would have to imagine, right? You would have to know that that's a very popular layout for keyboard users. God, there was... and then they fixed it, but then they didn't. Because you could... whatever. Never mind. So yeah, KoF 13 rollback. Hopefully it'll be good, and hopefully it'll be better than the Samurai Showdown 2019 rollback beta. Hot damn, I saw some clips of that. That looked rough. I'm sorry, guys. there was stuff I'm like, I don't even understand how this happened. It goes beyond normal lag. Like, two people are just standing there and suddenly one of them is dead. Like, from like full health. Like, I don't even understand what's happening. Oh no. You know what was crazy about the about the Sam Show rollback beta? Was so in like a training mode, right? You can reset position. There's always a reset position button. So by default, it'll reset you to round start. But you can usually like change it so that, or you can just like press a button and like hold a direction and press reset, and it'll reset you in the left or right corner, for instance. And then you can maybe hit like up and reset, and it'll swap which positions you and your opponent are in, that kind of thing. You could set the default reset position in the Sam Show training mode. And for some reason, somehow, I have no idea how this even happens, that would apply to online matches. So you could set your default reset position in training mode to be like start with the opponent in the corner, and then you would start the match online, and then they would start in the corner, and you'd have the advantage. What the fuck? How did this happen? But hey, I hope it'll be all good. I hope it'll be good. One more thing I want to talk about. Actually, two more things. So I'll talk about the lighter topic first. A VTuber fighting game, specifically the Hololive fighting game. This was called... Where was this? Idol Showdown. Yep, Idol Showdown. This is a Hololive fan game. Oh, it has a Steam page. Cool. It's a Hololive fan game produced by an independent dev called a Bestel Game Team. Now, if you don't know how this works, Hololive as a company has always been really open. I think part of the reason they've become so dominant is that they have been super open to fan works existing. They took the Zun approach that made Toho really popular, which is the smart approach of, hey, as long you can make whatever you want, but as long as you make it clear that it's not official, I don't care. You could even sell it for money. Actually, you can't sell Hololive stuff for money. But yeah, it's fine, fair. Zune lets you do whatever the fuck you want as long as you say it's not official. Excuse me. That dude's chilling. Zune will literally let you make anything you want, any kind of game, and just say, hey, this is unofficial. And he's cool with it. Which is very rare for anything from Japan, any Japanese property. And he'll like advise on certain games, right? Like usually like the bigger budget games you'll see, like someone I streamed today. Someone mentioned Toho Luna Nights because I played a little Toho on stream. And so I think he'll like advise on that, or he'll just give like his input to things, and he's just super chill about it. Hololive has a similar kind of thing where they are totally cool with fan works, and one of the reasons that they took off so hard was because they allowed people to do their advertising for them through translating clips and stuff. I discovered Hololive through translated clips of Korone, and I was like, this is an adorable person. I want to see more videos of her. And I will never turn down a Korone clip. She's great. I love Korone. I fucking love Korone. I own on my PC, I have a little sticker of her that Kat got for me. And on my wall, I have, it's from last Crunchyroll. I got someone was selling posters. There's one of Korone snuggling with like a little Okayu plush. and there's a matching one underneath it of Okayu snuggling a little Korone plush. And there's and because there was a buy two get one free deal, I got the one of them in like chef sort of like they're preparing food kind of outfits with their colors, and they're making their relative. Korone's got like a plate of bread, and Okayu has a plate of onigiri because of course. I'm gonna get back to the game. So they have a very open thing with like, oh yeah, there was like that Vampire Survivors like game called Hollow Cure. And it's like, yep, you can make this and you can use our branding and our characters and all that. You just can't sell it for money. That's our one thing. So Idol Showdown is a 2D fighting game. It looks kind of like it looks vaguely anime-ish. I can't get like a ton of, not a ton of details on gameplay just from the trailer. It doesn't look like an air dasher. Maybe it'll be like, oh, some characters have air dashes. But it looks like it has like kind of like a cancel system, some sort of light, medium, heavy, or something along those lines. Big flashy combos and supers. The official Steam page says, this is a free, unofficial fan-made project made out of love for Hololive fans and the fighting game genre. After 2 long years of hard work, the first complete fan-made Hololive fighting game is here. This is actually something that, like, because there's been a couple Hololivers, who have played fighting games in the past, like Guilty Gear. Kuroda's actually been playing Street Fighter V recently, which is really funny. She loves M. Bison. I love it. It's just really funny. It's really cute. And you'll just see comments like, there should be a Hololive fighting game or something like that. I'm like, man, that seems like a lot of work, but here we are. They've tout easy controls. Pick up on this game's easy-to-learn control scheme in no time to get straight into playing. Even Hololive fans who are inexperienced with traditional fighting games can have fun. I don't know what that means. Rollback netcode. Sick. Okay. I mean, it's expected, but it's nice to know. We're still in the era where it's nice to know. An immersive Hololive experience. Explore the vast world of Hololive from our roster of iconic Hololive talents, with moves inspired by their most memorable moments and personality traits. So, there's already, like, even just from a couple of the screenshots, you could see, like, oh, Korone has some kind of aerial move where she sneezes, because she has a really loud sneeze, and there's clips of her sneezing really loudly. She's shooting a Yubi. Things like that. Just, you know, like kind of what very like highly themed move sets to some of their like brandings and characters and references to memes. Oh, there's a move where Karate pulls out the Doom chainsaw because she loves Doom. That's great. This looks really fun. They don't have a release date yet. But they actually, there was another trailer for it. There's a different trailer for it with, I think, Bolton? I think they said there's going to be like 8 characters or something like that. So let's see if I can find it, because I don't think I actually watched the whole trailer. Oh, wow, no, they just have a bunch of videos. Oh, it's Bolton. Oh, man, no, oh my god, she's just doing fucking Noelle. She's just doing Noelle shit. Okay, a little bit. It's because she has guns, because she's the FPS lion. That's fun. She has like a little sniper pose. She can throw grenades. She goes boing, and she throws the grenade. How fun! What was the Botan trailer? I want to see it now. Yep. Oh, she hits you with the shopping cart. That's funny. That's funny. A lot of these are just references. I'm assuming it's going to be a lot like Dragon Ball Fighters or anything based off any other property. Honestly, it looks pretty fun. It looks like they're going for really flashy combos, which will probably just be neat to play around with in training mode. If you don't know Hololive, you'll probably not get it, but hopefully it'll be fun enough interesting enough to what do I say? Hold your interest. I'll try it out, and it's gonna be free, so let's go. You know, like what's the harm? Idol Showdown, that's what it's called. One last thing. So, over the weekend, Kat and I, we both got our pick of a movie. She picked Barnyard, and I picked the Tetris movie. Now, if you don't remember the Tetris movie, I forgive you because it's on Apple TV Plus. But the trailer for it came out a couple months ago. It's been in development for a while. The trailer came out a little while ago, and I was like, huh, okay. Weird. Because I obviously am... Tetris is literally... It's one of my favorite games. And the story behind it is interesting enough that I made an entire video about it. About the story behind its creation and the rights and who owns it. So the fact that they were making a movie based on that story of how the crazy, messy story of the rights to Tetris was very interesting to me. So I get to actually measure up something I have made against a real, I won't call it big budget, which I'll talk about later. Let's say mid-budget movie, biopic is what it's called. It's kind of a biopic, sort of. I guess it technically fits. It's about a lot of people, but sure, okay. How was the movie? It's weird. It's very strange. It's kind of what you would expect if I told you it's a very Hollywood retelling of the story behind Tetris. It's weird because, well, it's funny because the changes that they make are, one, not necessary, and two, kind of take away. No, that's it. They're unnecessary. And if they had just stuck closer to the original story, I think you could have made a much better movie. Like, okay, if you've seen my video on Tetris and the rights behind Tetris, it's called Who Owns Tetris? It's a very fascinating story. There's a lot of different people. There's a lot of, like, things going... there's elements of, like, you know... the Soviet Union, there's this whole political aspect to it and rights to, like, intellectual property and communism and people making shady deals. You have connections to weird people like the Maxwell family. You have people just, you know, kind of like telling little white lies to make business deals. And then you have everything just just falling apart and having, because of this one dude and having to figure out, like, what the fuck are we supposed to do? It's a very fun story. It's an intriguing story with a lot of natural twists and turns that really happened. The fact that Hank Rogers, Roger Stein, and Kevin Maxwell all showed up to Elorg on the same day randomly is hilarious. That's crazy. Like, imagine, like, when I picture, if I were to make a movie about this story, that would be like leading into the climax, basically. That's like the craziest that it could get. Is now we ensues this like insane negotiating where we're trying to figure out who owns this game, right? Who gets the rights to own this game, and this back and forth thing. The problem with telling a story like that is that maybe not leading into the climax, maybe like somewhere in the middle of the movie. The problem is you have to be really good at writing dialogue, and the director has to be good at filming tense scenes of people talking. And I'm sorry to say, but neither of those things are very true. So immediately I noticed a weird thing, and I didn't comment on it until about halfway through the film because I wanted to see if it improved. Everyone in the movie talks like they're reciting lines for everyone. All the dialogue sounds like it's in a trailer for a fake movie. Like something that you would see on like an old college humor video. Like the gritty Legend of Zelda adaptation. And it's like a fake trailer, like tongue-in-cheek trailer for this movie that doesn't exist. Everyone sounds like that. And it's really weird. They all sound like they're reciting lines for a trailer. The dialogue feels really unnatural because of that, or just the delivery is just... It's like too prepackaged to be cut into a trailer. I don't know. That kind of persists throughout a lot of the movie. There's a lot of like, oh, this dialogue is not my favorite thing in the world. In place of tense negotiating over the rights to a game, they have opted to go with, or the screenwriter opted to go with, or this might not have been him, you know, it could have been the studio, could have been whatever. The filmmakers have decided to go with, what if we made up a character of a Russian politician who wanted to own Tetris and like threatened Pajitnov's family, and it turned into like a crazy, like, we're gonna arrest and kill the main characters unless they can get to the airport in this high octane car chase action scene. I'm like, why do we have to be doing this? It also, from what I know, I don't know how much. Now there's two sides to this. There's two possibilities. Either I might not have the complete story, and they got advising from some of the real people involved, or they just made this shit up. But they really play up the involvement of Kevin Maxwell's father. Why can't I remember his name? I'm so bad at remembering his name. Robert Maxwell, that was his name. They really play up his importance, which I found kind of strange, and also underplay Stein's involvement in the whole ordeal. Like, Stein is almost like a side character. Like, he's there, but they don't focus nearly enough on how badly he fucked the situation by just handing the rights to every, like, you know, Tom, Dick, and Mary who asked for them. The fact that he sold the Japanese rights to two different people. Yeah, he's kind of really important to why it was such a messy situation in the first place. He's just, yeah, he's weirdly not as important. And Stein had a relationship with Kevin Maxwell, and it wasn't Robert Maxwell who was, for some reason they have Kevin show up with his dad, and that's not how it was. Stein and Maxwell, and Kevin Maxwell was Stein's guy. They were like a duo. He liked Mirrorsoft. He wanted them to get the rights. Hank Rogers wanted it for Bulletproof. And he ended up befriending Pajitnov. And like, oh man, there's no scene where Rogers and Pajitnov play a steamy game of Go together. And I was so disappointed. because they set up at the beginning, Rogers is trying to sell a Go game, like a Go for like computer Go, right? That he had developed, and I'm like, oh, that's an obvious setup. He's going to be at Pajitnov's apartment or something when they meet. He's going to invite him over because they have a scene. He invites him over for dinner. Oh, they're going to have a scene where they talk about Go. And they get so close to this to the point where I feel like it was in the script and it got taken out. Where Rogers mentions that he made a few games because they're talking about how he discovered Tetris and the trade show he was at, which is like the opening of the movie. And he says, "Oh yeah, I had this trying to sell this game unsuccessfully." I totally thought it was going to go into Pajitnov says, "Oh, what game did you make? What kind of games did you make?" And Rogers would say, "Oh, I made a computer version of Go." And Pajitnov said, "Oh, I love Go. It's one of my favorite games." And then they would play a game of Go, and that's how their relationship would blossom like how it did in real life. But for some reason, they didn't take this obvious thing, and instead they have them program Tetris on the spot. It's really weird. They sit down. So they sit down and Pajitnov shows Rogers the original version of Tetris that he programmed on like his old busted ass Soviet computer, right? He shows him the original version of Tetris, and Rogers is like, "Oh, this is so cool." And they say, "Oh, you should let multiple lines disappear at once." And then they write code to make 4 lines disappear at once. And I was like, "Wait, what? What do you mean? Wasn't that always... That was always there. That was always part of the game. Tetris as a game, like the basics of Tetris, Pajitnov already like had done that. This, in fact, it's not even a new idea. They had already been adapted into the other versions of Tetris that were already being sold around the world at that point in the story. Why are they acting like being able to score a Tetris is a new idea that Pajitnov hadn't thought of? How is it even a new feature? Isn't it just... That's just the way that the game works. That's the longest piece is 4 lines tall. Of course that's how many lines you can get. What? Did you think he hadn't figured that out yet? That's just how it works. It's practically physics. Why are we pretending like... What a weird scene. Because he's suggesting features that are already in Tetris in other versions. Like if you go and you play the old MirrorSoft or Bulletproof versions of Tetris like on the Famicom, yeah, already there. What? Huh? And like they hadn't figured out the way, like he didn't have, they program a way in that scene for the blocks to like lower, like when you clear a line and the parts of the board that didn't get cleared, like you know how they drop down in Tetris, that they code that on the spot, and I'm like, no, that was always there. I'm pretty sure that was always there. Also, not new. Like, okay, so I didn't mention this in my video. The reason, so Tetris originally, it was just a game about, it was like, because it was based on pentominoes, and pentominoes are just about creating filling up all of the space in this board with these shapes, right? Tetris was the same thing, except with tetronymos? Tetronymos, I think that's how you say it. With tetronymos, because it's easier to work with in that setting. And originally lines did not clear when you filled them because it was just about filling space. The problem was that he realized that the board would fill up and it would also make the game run slower. So the fact that lines disappeared was actually a hardware thing. It was actually like a necessity because of the limitations of the hardware it was programmed on. And then later, Tetris originally did not have a scoring system. Later, he added a scoring system after it got really popular among like his colleagues, and it was being passed around like universities and things like that. That's when he added that feature to make it, a little more gamey, or to be able to, play for some kind of a goal. And he kind of expanded it from just being pentominoes. But yeah, like, what a weird scene. It doesn't even make sense. What's some other weird things? Well, they kind of shift around the order of events a little bit. Like, they'll take one event and they'll split it in two and make one thing happen at a different time. It's kind of weird. If you watch it, you'll get the basics of the story, but there's so many alterations and original things. Basically everything, as far as I'm aware, everything that involves like them potentially like risking their lives is mostly made up. Now, I would be totally willing to accept, and I would even assume actually, that going like unprompted, because Rogers just booked a flight, right? He just booked a flight to the Soviet Union in 1989. As like an American, that might be kind of dicey. That's kind of an extreme thing to do. I can imagine there is some element of danger there, but holy shit, they play it up so much to the point where I'm like, this is like a cartoon. This is like I'm like, is this going to be Fast and Furious? And then a car chase happens, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Fast and Furious. What are some other just funny things from this film? There's a scene when Pajitnov, instead of bonding over a game of Go because they're like both intellectuals or whatever, Pajitnov takes Rogers to like a cool hip Russian club in like an abandoned building, or like not an abandoned building, but like a warehouse. and they start playing the final countdown, and Pajitnov goes, "Everyone here love America. We want capitalism. We love America. We love Boston." He doesn't say that exactly. No, what he does? He says like, "We want Levi's jeans." I'm like, fuck. And again, I have to say, late era Soviet Union was not a fun place to live. 100%. 100% I believe that. Not a fun place to live. Would I believe that Pajitnov was disenfranchised with his government? Sure. I could totally believe that. I could believe that lots of young Russians were felt that way at that time. But it's really funny to me to have an American film where the American character comes to Russia and all of the Russian character and all the cool Russian characters go, "Oh, we love America, yes, blue jeans and McDonald's and AC/DC and Boston." It doesn't rub me the wrong way. That's not what it's just kind of funny. It's kind of amusing. Like, It feels pandering to me as an American. And maybe I'm totally off base with that. And maybe that was what they felt at the time, what Pajitnov felt at the time. Maybe they actually did go to a hip Russian club in a warehouse that played the final countdown. But to me, it feels pandering. I find it's really cringy when you watch American movies and Americans are like, if you have American characters who happen to be super cool, it's like, okay, whatever. But when they specifically point, like, they make it a point to be like, they're American, they're fucking cool. Look at how independent and freedom eagle they are. Let's go. I find come on, man. Come on. I don't even hate America in that kind of a way. And I'm not like, I fucking... Boy, I'm just, come on, dude. Like, I'm at least realistic. I'm at least self-aware enough to know when I'm being pandered to for my national identity. Yeah. So there's a scene where... there's a scene... This leads into the car chase. I'll talk about the whole car chase segment. So basically, the lead up to this is the evil Russian politician guy, the villain who I think was just made up for this movie, wants Tetris because communism is dying and I need to get a lot of money. So he works with Robert Maxwell to get the rights to Tetris. And one thing I thought was amusing was that they repeatedly play up the fact that the Maxwells were shady bitches, and all of their money was like really suspicious and maybe didn't exist. Like there's multiple scenes of Kevin walking into his dad. There's like a scene of literally him walking into his dad and like some people like in the office shredding like 1,000 papers, and he's like, "What's going on here?" And his dad's like, "Oh, we're just shredding some unimportant things." And Kevin's like, "Oh, it sounds good to me." Or just like, Kevin, my boy, I'm just taking care of some. Just a small accounting matter that needs to be resolved. The money will be resolved by then. And Kevin goes, "Well, that sounds just fine, father." Which I thought was funny, and that eventually leads to Kevin makes a deal on the spot to give them like $1 million by the end of the week in exchange for Tetris, and if he can't do that, Rodgers is going to get the license. Robert Maxwell, his dad, does not know about this. And when he tells him, he's like, "Oh, fuck." Because he doesn't have that money. All of his money is just this shady laundering passed around, whatever, you know. I usually think of it, I call it cheap money. Stuff that it trades it's in his hands and then it's out of his hands pretty quickly. That's how I think it, or fast money, I think is better. I think cheap money is funnier because he's not really wealthy. He's just constantly passing money through his hands and kind of stealing a little bit of it at a time and things like that. That's cheap money in my mind. It's not it's not going into savings. It's not really being invested into anything long term. So basically they find out and Trifonov is working, he's the politician guy. He's working with Robert Maxwell so that they can both get this license. Kevin doesn't know about this. He doesn't know that his dad is a big sham. This all ends up falling apart in their faces. And they steal... Oh, what the fuck even happens? It's like... I don't know why this happens. I guess because Rodgers isn't really supposed to be in the U.S. for business reasons because he has like a tourist visa, because getting a business visa would have taken too long. So they're always trying to like arrest him. He's like Jesus and they're the Pharisees, and he's American Jesus. And so there's this scene where there's like a Russian, it's like Lenin Day or something. I don't know what they celebrate in Russia. They have a big tapestry of Lenin's face, and there's a bunch of tanks strolling through the streets, and these tanks are very clearly not there. They are 100% art assets or like really low res 3D, and they've tried to like, they look like they've been painted into the scene. they're trying to like shade them in a way that makes it look like they're actually there, and it's just not. And it looks really bad. It looks really bad when you look at it. Like, you could tell, okay, this is not actually a Hollywood budget. This was an Apple TV Plus budget. So, what the fuck happens? It's like just this big mess, and then it turns into like a car chase where Rogers has secured the rights, and he just needs to get back to America. But Trifonov wants to stop him and suppress him from getting the rights, even though he's probably not, I don't think he's going to get them anyway, because it was kind of contingent on Maxwell having the money, which he doesn't. And then there's just this really dumb car chase starts, and the final countdown starts playing in the background, except it's in Russian, and it's like an 8-bit remix of the final countdown. They did this earlier with what's it called? Send Me a Hero, or I Need a Hero, that song. It's like a Russian vocal cover with an 8-bit remix of the instrumental. It's really strange. And then they're like doing this car chase through the streets of Moscow. I think it's Moscow. And and as it gets tense, I don't know how else to describe this. The car turns into a pixel car. Or I guess more accurately, a voxel car. Where it's like a 3D voxel car that's made up of, it's supposed to look like pixels. It's really, I keep saying it's really weird, and there's no other way to say it. While we were watching this, I don't know, I was just kind of watching this kind of awestruck at how at this decision, and all I could say was, wow, someone had an idea. Someone in the studio had an idea. And they went for it. So just, yeah, it becomes like a weird action chase thing, and the car becomes a pixel car, and then they get to the airport, and then they get on the plane, and then they leave, and then everything wraps up all happily. And then, that's the movie. If you're interested in watching it, okay, here's the thing. Oh, well, actually, one more thing. Excuse me. The you know that like what happened next segment that's at the end of like these kinds of movies, biopics, where they just show like a picture and like text of explaining what happened. The picture that they use for Stein is very funny enough, the same one I use in my video, and that's because it's the only one that exists. The dude is like weirdly hard. It's hard to get a picture of him. There's like one picture. Oh, I should mention the casting. Casting overall is pretty good. Taron Egerton as Hank Rogers he's probably the least convincing casting. The problem is that Hank Rogers is a very Dutch man. You look at this guy, you're like, this is a Dutch ass motherfucker. And Taron Egerton does not have that look to him. He's fine. He's got kind of like he's got the mustache. He's got vaguely the face for it, but I don't know. I didn't quite buy him as Rogers. The guy who plays Pajitnov, good casting. Who they got for Stein? Oh my god, this little kind of like goblin looking little shabble shamble glip glop of a man. This little melting kind of goblin guy. Oh yeah, no, that's him. That's a great Stein casting. Yamauchi, the CEO of Nintendo, president of Nintendo of Japan. Good casting. Howard Lincoln appears. You might remember him from the Senate hearing video. He was Nintendo's lawyer, or chief legal executive, something like that. While this was all going down, before he was the vice president, and casting for him is pretty good. Who else? Who else is cast pretty all right? The Kevin Maxwell, it looks pretty close. It's a pretty good Kevin Maxwell. Yeah, overall, the casting is quite good, I have to say. Most of the actors give strange performances. Again, it really does not feel like a real movie. It feels like I'm watching a trailer for a fake movie, but it's like 2 hours long. It's paced really oddly. The pacing is... because I know the story in my head. And maybe I'm biased because of the way that I chose to tell the story in my own video. But it is not the way that I would have paced. Most of the movie... I haven't even mentioned, but most of the movie, it takes place in Russia. It takes place after... Hank books his flight to Russia. The first time. It's really... I was watching it, I'm like, are they going to spend the whole movie just in the negotiations? And no, not really. They spend a lot of time doing whatever else. Yeah, okay. I take a little bit of pride in knowing that now there is a decently budgeted adaptation of this real-world story. And my video is the better telling of the story. I just think it is. Allow me to be arrogant for 1 second. I genuinely think that if you're curious about the story behind the rights to Tetris, which is a funny, fascinating story, that would make for a perfect movie, my video on it will give you a better understanding of what actually happened, and I think it's really entertaining. I think it's an entertaining video, and I think I told the story in a way that brought out the best, most interesting parts of it. If you want a weird version of it, I would recommend the Tetris movie. I really don't know what else to say. If you will get a basic understanding of what happened. You will by no means get everything, or even some of the best parts, to be honest. They don't have the moment where all three of them show up on the same day at Elorg. They don't have that. I don't know why. They have it like later, but it's not. It's really... I don't know why they wouldn't have that moment, because it's such a great dramatic moment. It's perfect. It just happened like that. But the impact of them seeing each other for the first time and having like a stare off is crazy. The not having that is like, why? Why wouldn't you take that golden opportunity for a moment? Would I recommend it? I don't know. We pirated it straight up, so I can't say that we paid money for it. If you're curious about it, and my review of it so far has not... spoiling the interesting parts of it has not deterred you, I would say maybe yeah. If you have a friend or somebody who's familiar with the story and they haven't listened to this, maybe go watch it with them, because there are just some... There's some real head scratchers that I don't even want to mention, actually, because I think I'll save that. Save that for your own experience. Some real... What? Why did... What? kind of moments. Yeah. Tetris. an oddity of a film. The last 30 minutes are pretty queer, if I do say so myself, in the classical definition, that it's strange. It's kind of queer. It's not nearly as gay as I wish it was. I think I'm good. My voice is tired. I did a stream today. I recorded a podcast today. I want to get this thing up. If you've been listening this far, thank you so much for listening to me ramble. If you have a question, please leave it down in the comments below. But please phrase it in the form of a question. What do I say? Phrase it in the form of a question, because I'm not just gonna read your thoughts out loud. I have Patreon. Currently brainstorming ideas in the lab for a new video. Thank you for all the support on the new video. It's been cool. I'm glad people seem to enjoy it. I'll talk about it more in like the next episode that's probably going to come out in a few days. Yeah. That's it. Right? Yeah, bye.